we're going to be talking about your adrenal glands and how to improve adrenal function, and this is going to be a very insightful webinar around some different things that you can implement into your practice and also help your patients better and grow your overall practice expansion. So today, our speaker today is none other than Reagan Archibald. He's going to be, let's hear it. Give it up. We're gonna be. He's put together some great content for this webinar, and he continues to do that. Reagan, if you don't know exactly what Reagan does, he has put together some very individualized programs for acupuncturists, for chiropractors, for holistic doctors. We have medical doctors as well on our programs to help implement functional medicine, to have better outstanding results with patients and better business growth. So I'm gonna turn it over to Reagan.
Woo! Hey everybody, thank you. Appreciate that, Cade. I'm an audience of one here at my house, and it's so it's really good to have you guys on. Let's jump into adrenals because I get asked these questions all the time. Well, I don't know how to treat the adrenals. I'm not comfortable reading these lab reviews. I don't understand them. And so today I want to just demystify the whole thing and just get right down to practicalities. The adrenals are all about love, okay? So love, I don't know how many of you have seen The Matrix, but I think The Matrix is the perfect show to watch if you are into medicine, because so much of medicine is a mindset, and so much of medicine depends on your ability to look beyond what you perceive as the truth into deeper avenues. And so the adrenals, the very bottom line is your adrenals are all about love, and that's the ability that your patients have to love themselves, the ability they have to take care of themselves, to nurture themselves. In Chinese medicine, the old saying is that the Big Dipper pours out your destiny into your kidneys, and then your kidneys hold that destiny and that kind of path to what your purpose is in life. But it's that Ming-Men fire, and the Ming-Men fire, that's what sits on top of the kidneys. That's your adrenals, and they provide the fuel to source you throughout your entire purpose in life, so you actually reach your destiny. So the more that you can love yourself and trust in yourself, have confidence in yourself, take the courage to commit deeply to something, then the more for your progress will be. So here's a conversation with Neo in one of the computer programs, but love, he says it's a human emotion. No, it's a word. What matters is the connection the word implies. So I appreciate you all being connected with us here today. And if you think about this, 50 years ago, having a webinar like this would have been impossible. I would have to go to multiple places. I mean, we have people in Brooklyn on this. We have people in Arizona. We have people in Nevada. We got people in southern Utah. We got people in California. We got people in Washington on this. So my hat's off to all of you. I really appreciate you being here and engaging in this process. I tend to move through the material, and if you have questions, feel free to shout them out. I really appreciate those of you who do ask questions, because then I know that you're picking up what I'm laying down. I also understand that a lot of you are working while you're attending this, and then we have several that, well, most of you come back and watch these after they're already recorded. So good news is, for now, they'll be open. They'll be open for a couple of months, and then we're going to put them in our archives for our members only. It will go on our Kajabi site. So those of you who are Go Wellness members, you know how to get on Kajabi. So let me go back a little bit. So first thing, get your calendars. As we jump into the adrenals and this whole concept of balancing them, the first thing is get your calendar set for Einstein's Medicine. This is session 3. It's going to be October 15th and 16th in LA. You've got to get registered on gowellness.com. Go to our events and you can get registered there. This is going to be a kick-ass event. It's all new material. We're going to be covering a lot on the hormones, so thyroid, adrenals. We're going to be talking about ovaries and estrogen. We're also going to be covering some of the ways that the microbiota influences hormones, and we'll cover that briefly today. Einstein's medicine, we're going to talk about ways of communicating deeper. I'm going to dissect the dinner talk even in greater detail. I've been taking this and just splicing every little amazing thing you can do, because the goal in our healthcare entrepreneur program is to have you create a market that may not exist right now. We want you to learn how to influence people so that when patients show up at your door and calling your office, they show up pre-educated and they're willing to invest in their health. They're not the typical patient that you receive who just says, how many visits does my insurance cover? And then they lay on the table and you stick needles in them, or you adjust their spine, or make a couple recommendations. But we show you how to actually put programs together that can change somebody's life. And this is the one time that people actually invest in their health. So we'll show you how to do that with Einstein's medicine. That's coming up in LA, Marina Del Rey Marriott. It's going to be a phenomenal event, the best ever. And then following up on our boot camp, we had an amazing event a couple weeks ago here in Salt Lake City. Our level 1 functional medicine boot camp. We had our level 1 structural acupuncture boot camps, and those were both a hit. So we're going to have these boot camps again November 11th and 12th, and then November 13th we're also going to be having a training on herbal injections. So look for your emails, because we will be blasting out emails to you, and you'll want to register for these events. This will be our level 1 training in the Acu injection course. So Dan Kelmans and Gene Healy and I will be putting this thing together. It's rocking. We're putting the content together. So, okay, get signed up. All right, let's dive in. So what do your adrenals do? Your adrenals, if you look at the adrenal medulla, that's the inner part of the adrenals. They secrete epinephrine and norepinephrine, noradrenaline. These are your fight or flight neurotransmitters. So this is what regulates blood pressure. So one of the first things you can do with your patients to find out if they've got adrenal issues is just have them put their head below their heart, like put it between their legs if they're sitting in your exam room, and then have them sit up quickly. Now, if the room starts to spin, then you'll know, okay, this person has adrenal imbalances, because part of the issue with orthostatic hypotension, for example, is going to be a lack of norepinephrine and epinephrine. It can also be from traumatic brain injury or neck injury. So look, check those things out. But from what I see, 90% are from adrenal imbalances. Now, Western medicine, when they look at the adrenals, they'll say, oh, everything's fine. They only will diagnose the adrenals if there's been an issue, like if something looks off where it looks like they have Cushing's disease, then possibly they'll do something about the adrenals. But nothing will show up positive on a typical blood test for the adrenals until the adrenals are about 90% unresponsive. So they've got to be pretty dead before anything will show up. So the medulla, think about that, the inner part of the adrenals, that's directly connected to the brain and to the neurotransmitters. Anytime your body gets in that fight or flight mode, the adrenals are releasing epinephrine, norepinephrine. So they help you wake up in the morning. They help you feel good. They help you when you want to exercise. Boom, the adrenals are ready to go. So that's the inner part, the neurotransmitters. And look on our sections on brain health. You'll learn a lot about neurotransmitters. There's herbs that can balance those, Chinese herbs. There's Western herbs. There's also lots of lifestyle things we're going to cover today. The outer part of the adrenals, that's where there's 50 major hormones that are made here, but you're going to get estrogens. So as a woman hits menopause, her ovaries shut down, right? And so she can't produce as many of the estrogen hormones that she'd like, unless you're a woman in India. And this woman had a baby when she was 72, so her ovaries went forever. And in the future, we'll probably just be doing ovary transplants. And Kate, maybe you could even get your testicles, and they can get converted into ovaries in the next
Perfect.
10 years or so. Yeah, I know you've wondered about that, but I think there's some pretty good research, and we'll grow you a uterus too with stem cells.
I'm in.
So you're in. Good.
Sierra was
Um,
wondering if I'll take on the childbearing, so that would take care of that.
yeah. Well, then we can at least have something, when women are like, nothing's more painful than childbirth. And it's like, I believe you, but I've got to experience it myself. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to grow ovaries and a uterus, and then we'll impregnate me. So, all right. So estrogens,
We just
aldosterone.
lost half the audience. Sorry,
Yeah,
guys.
sorry guys. They just checked out. They're like, this is weird. Um, all right, we're going to be doing demonstrations at the next event, so you better be there. All right, aldosterone. So these are the male sex hormones, and the males go through what's called andropause, and all the androgen hormones, if they drop too low, especially testosterone, then what happens is estrogen levels get higher, and so that's when men grow moobs and they start to change their outlook on life. They feel less for most of the men I talk to anyway, they just feel a little less connected with society. They don't feel like they have as much to contribute. Um, Most of my mentors are in their late 60s, early 70s, 80s. I love mentors who are older because I think as the hormone patterns change, they cultivate a lot more wisdom. It forces them to look into more spiritual sides. But as male testosterone, as it drops too low, they're more likely to get diabetes. So one of the ways to reverse diabetes is to increase testosterone levels, and you can do that naturally. It's pretty cool when you hear Dave Asprey talk about his story. Dave Asprey with Bulletproof, he's talks about how he used testosterone for years. I think it was almost 2 decades. But now that he got his body healthy enough, he doesn't need to use it, and he can still maintain um, testosterone levels in the 800s. And so that's the goal. We don't want to correct hormonal imbalances with just throwing more hormones at you. We want to do it by correcting the adrenals. So testosterone, aldosterone, cortisol. Everyone knows what cortisol is. We'll be hitting on this a lot. Um, Cortisol is your only anti-inflammatory hormone in your body. Yes, you need it. Yes, it's very helpful. And yes, it's higher in the morning. And it's higher in the morning because it's cleaning up the mess, because you have growth hormone that gets secreted at night. And that growth hormone is fixing ligaments, tendons, all the damage you did to your body the day before. The Bon Jovi that you were listening to, the Red Bulls that you were downing, all those things are getting fixed by your growth hormone at night. And then cortisol is kind of like the street sweeper that comes up high in the morning as your body's getting ready for the day and make sure everything's working properly, and then it cuts down around noon. And you'll see some graphs on this. Progesterone, this is kind of like the probiotic for all the sex hormones. They all need progesterone. Testosterone, we talked about that. That's what's going to give you, ladies, the male pattern baldness and the facial hair. If you have too high levels of this, you'll feel strong though, and you'll kick ass at CrossFit. Pregnenolone, once again, these are all the hormones that we have to look at for helping your body communicate and function. DHEA. So all these things, and the estrogens, those are all made in the adrenal cortex. So the medulla, remember the medulla, the inner part is the brain, the outer part, the hormones. All right, so let's talk about cortisol. Cortisol, obviously, it's produced with the stress hormone response. Cortisol is like the alpha hormone. So when it's high, high levels can cause hormonal resistance downstream. So the worst time to eat sugar, which we've talked about a lot before in our trainings, is in the morning, because your body already has lots of cortisol in it. That's when cortisol should be the highest. And so whenever cortisol is higher, you have your liver pushing out sugar, glucose, into the blood so that your body has an instant source of energy for that stress. Now, if your body already has enough sugar in the blood, your cortisol is high, what also tends to happen is your cells become more resistant, because they're waiting for you to run, or they're waiting to be directed to that damaged area where the sugar is needed the most. So the majority of the cells become resistant to taking in that sugar from insulin. So insulin resistance is highest in the morning. What did most of us get taught to eat for food in the morning? Yes, like that bowl of fruit. And I know a lot of you are doing fruit smoothies because you guys are total nerds like that. And I love them too, and I've done that for years, but don't put fruit in it. And if you're putting vegetables, make sure you're cooking most of your vegetables before and eating it that way. So when your cortisol levels are out of balance, then all the hormones in your body, because it's the alpha hormone, it's a stress hormone, your body's first mechanism is survival. So your body says, well, until this cortisol gets balanced, we're not going to really allow all the other hormones to do their job, because some of those hormones we can live without. And we want to make sure that we're surviving. So one of the very first places that those excess hormones go, the estrogens and the insulin, is into fat cells. And so that's why cortisol is, a lot of people are saying, oh, you've got the cortisol belly, you got that lower belly fat. It's a really important hormone. We could not survive without it. But what happens is when the cells become less sensitive to the effect of a hormone, then that hormone can't activate the transcriptors and do what it's supposed to do in the first place. So the hormones lose their viability and they lose their signaling. So pregnenolone, what happens is pregnenolone can get eaten by the cortisol. It's called Pregnenolone Steal. Now this is where you have to look at this, because it starts to deplete. If pregnenolone gets channeled into the cortisol pathway, then all the production of sex hormones like estrogen, they get diminished and they're not being produced properly. So what do we do in Western medicine? Instead of treating the real issue, which is the pregnenolone steal, we treat estrogen. We start throwing estrogen at people, and then we think we're smart because we put in a little bit of progesterone with a little bit of estrogen. And I hear patients all the time, well, it's just a small dose, but you've seen the results of the research. I mean, it's just not safe. So biggest thing, if you're looking at low estrogen, you want to be asking yourself, well, could this be from a pregnenolone steal? Is that what's leading to this low estrogen? The other thing in men, if you see low testosterone, even when you're working on it, maybe you're using tribulus or maca, and you're looking, why is this person's hormones not going up? Well, that's where you have to look at the sex hormone binding globulin, because what happens is estrogen, sorry men, but estrogen is actually a stronger hormone than testosterone, and it will eat testosterone. Just like your lady eats you up in your relationship I know 90% of the time, even though we think not, but that's the same way the hormones work. So if the sex-binding globulin hormone is not, if that's too high, then you know that what's happening is the testosterone is being eaten by the estrogens. So a couple things to look out for. Insulin resistance can also lead to high cortisol levels. So when your insulin surges, then what's happening in the body, you're creating inflammation. And so that inflammation, that inflammatory response, leads to more cortisol. It puts your body in a stress mode, and cortisol is what cleans up the inflammation. But what happens, insulin surges upregulate the production of an enzyme called 1720 lyase, which leads to higher testosterone levels. Now, this is very common in the U.S. and in the industrialized world, because the interesting thing is, if you have a female who has high levels of testosterone, her levels of PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, is going to go up, and this can cause infertility. So you have to regulate insulin when you're regulating cortisol. And when you're regulating insulin and cortisol, you've also got to regulate the estrogen. So you want to look at all these things, and especially if you're treating infertility, this is going to be key. All right, so liver. How does your liver and the adrenals, how do they coordinate? Well, if you think about it, your cortisol levels are cleaning up the mess. The liver is very sensitive to cortisol. So right when the liver sees cortisol being secreted from the adrenals, the liver says, okay, my job is to put sugar into the blood. And then the other thing that the liver does is, as that cortisol hormone or any other hormone in your body, it needs to be metabolized. And so estrogen, for example, it's a fat-soluble molecule. We cannot detoxify something when it's fat-soluble. It has to be converted into a water-soluble molecule. So that's what phase 1 detoxification does in your liver. Your liver's big job, it's like a giant filter, and it filters out all the garbage. So the liver has to take that garbage and convert it in phase 1 into a water-soluble molecule. So then your gallbladder can take that out. Your bile is part of what is used to emulsify these fat-soluble molecules, and then you pee it out in your urine, or you poop it out. But that's one of the reasons why when people drink their urine first thing in the morning, which I challenge each one of you to do that for a week and tell me how you feel. I have not done it, but if you feel good enough, I may try it. Put it in your smoothie. But one of the reasons why hormones are so good to drink in the morning, because you still have some active metabolites that get pushed out into the urine, and so you can introduce some new hormones into your body. And I have patients who swear by this, and I'm always just saying, how do you gag that down in the morning? But I'm proud of you for doing it, because that's what we call commitment. And I think in our report of findings, one of the first things we should ask our patients is, are you willing to drink your urine first thing in the morning? And are you willing to do fecal matter transplant? And I think that's where you can really gauge the level of commitment. So Kate, let's upload that as a part of our new report of findings questions.
Perfect.
Just to make, yep, I think that will be very helpful. All right, so how's everyone doing? You guys getting this? Okay, so liver, remember, liver's got to metabolize and break down these hormones. If cortisol doesn't get broken down properly, and remember, this goes back to our MTHFR. I think we did that one last week. So if you don't understand the methylation pathways, they're complicated, but the simplification of it is the methylation is part of how your body gets rid of the garbage, the cellular waste. And so if your body is not methylating properly, you need to support those pathways. Otherwise, the liver is going to get jammed up, and you're going to get massive hormonal imbalances. This is one reason, part of the way that you fix the adrenals is through detoxification. But as you'll see in a minute here, you can't do detoxification until you have your adrenals a little stronger and your body's hormones. Okay, so let's talk about infections. If you have patients who have infections, now these are common. Epstein-Barr, cytomegalovirus virus, Lyme's disease, all these lingering infections, they weaken the body because the adrenals are responsible for regulating the white blood cells. They kind of pull the reins in or let them go when the body's in a threatened mode. Infections, they can originate from childhood, and they can be lingering. You know, if you have, especially the Xiaoyang layer, for those acupuncturists out there, that's where you get a virus that's lingering in that middle level. It's not deep and it's not superficial. So the body, it just keeps your immune system active. Your Wei Qi is very confused when those viruses get in that level. And so part of what you want to do is strengthen the adrenals, because that's what's driving a lot of adrenal fatigue. You can see it in teeth and gums. If your patients have really bad breath, and it's not the, like the SIBO breath where it tasted like they ate a poo sandwich for breakfast, you'll know it's coming from their teeth and gums. My wife has this crazy sense. We'll be in a conversation with somebody, and then after they leave, she'll say, they had a tooth infection. I'm like, what? So ask my wife to smell your breath next time you see her, and maybe you can find out if you've got some infectious origins. But this is getting rid of infections. You cannot balance hormones, you can't balance the adrenals, you can't get a person healthy unless you address these lingering infections. So a lot of us have had the kissing disease, mononucleosis, and some of the main symptoms: fatigue, malaise, loss of appetite, headaches, the sore throat, the white patches in the tonsils, they're very swollen, they can barely breathe. Photophobia, the sleeping forever. So it's not just if your teenager is feeling like this, it's not just that they're tired, they probably contracted mono. And then what does mono come? Mono is a bacterial infection, but it turns into Epstein-Barr virus, and that's where it can lie dormant, and you can maintain a lot of these symptoms throughout your life. How about Lyme's disease? For those of you who are in New York, Long Beach, that area is huge for Lyme's, and more areas are getting infected by Lyme's disease. So Lyme's disease, it gets in your body. Lyme's disease can downregulate your immune response. The treatments in Western medicine is a year on antibiotics. Now, I think this is crazy, because Lyme's disease, it becomes more of a viral infection. So if you have patients with Lyme's disease, one of the best things that we've found is we don't put them on that year long, because I have patients who come to me who have been on the year-long protocol for Lyme's disease. Actually, I worked at a clinic with a doctor who I won't mention names at all because she's awesome, but she used to treat patients with this protocol because it worked on a few patients. But the problem is with this year-long antibiotic protocol, but the problem that I found is the patients were exhausted by the end. Maybe the Lyme's didn't test positive in their lab, but everything else was destroyed in their body. All their good bacteria, all their hormones were out of place, and then it created an environment where more of these infections can harbor and linger and become active. So watch out for that with Lyme's. Okay, so with the adrenal body type, what the body's going to look like is you're going to get the lower belly fat that sags over. So I want everyone to pull up their shirt right now and look at your belly. I mean, if you're in front of a lot of people and you don't like that, that's fine. If you have a six-pack and want to show it off, that's great too. But you're going to want to show your lower belly, and if it sags over your belt or your pants, that's when you know you've probably got some adrenal issues. Your neck is going to develop a buffalo hump in severe cases. You'll be very tired. You'll crave salt, sugar. There'll be dizziness. You're going to have a nighttime energy surge because your adrenals, they'll be lower all through the day, and then at night you finally feel like yourself, and that's typically when cortisol spikes for the adrenal fatigue. Red tip on the tongue, facial hair for females, high blood pressure, osteoporosis. You'll need coffee to wake up. You'll have brain fog, fluid retention, chest tightness, difficulty walking upstairs, asthma, viral infections, autoimmunity, fibromyalgia, and then just an overall feeling of overwhelm, defeat, and grief. Those are some of the things that go along with it. Here's a drawing. This is from Dr. Berg. I did his training course about 10, 11 years ago, and this is what the adrenal body type can tend to morph into. And here's what's going to happen in evolution if you and I don't make a change. All right, so testing the adrenals. How do you know? You want to get a good measurement for testosterone. That's always critical. And then you also want to check how the cortisol levels are functioning. If you look at testosterone, the functional ranges for men is going to be about 650 to around 850. That's kind of the sweet spot. Anywhere in between there that's not optimal. If someone drops below 250, that's a big red flag. Now, most doctors, they're not going to do anything until testosterone is below 200. Now, I find that if we can get on top of testosterone before it drops below 500, it's very easy to treat with some tribulus and maca. You can get that thing up. The other thing you have your patients do is make sure their selenium levels are high, so have them eating Brazil nuts. And then a lot of our patients have been trained to eat chicken and turkey, and that's it. And that chicken and turkey is not good for your adrenals. The adrenal glands, they actually like bison or grass-fed beef, lots of fish. Lamb is one of the best foods you can eat for your adrenals. So there's different meats that can be medicinal when it comes to adrenal health. Cortisol, what you'll see on a cortisol is it follows a circadian rhythm. So the normal graph is what's shown with the red line. The blue line is what most people's, the blue line is what most people should look like. That's where it starts out high in the morning, slowly tapers off, so by noon your cortisol levels drop, and the red line is where somebody's cortisol levels stay high, way too high for too long. So let's dig into how you can interpret some of these tests. First thing you have to do is give somebody a kit. And as someone signs up for your wellness program, what you're going to want to do is send them off with some tests. So we'll do the hair test, so we can look at food sensitivities, micronutrients. We'll want to give them the adrenal kit. We'll give them a few other kits. And what happens is they'll take this kit and they're going to collect their saliva, and it's a lot of saliva. They're going to feel like they're spitting all day long, because they will be, and they're going to complain, and you're going to tell them it's going to be easy and no worry. Just collect a little bit of saliva, fill each one of these vials at 4 different times of the day, and then what you'll get back is a test result. If you use Diagnostics, it will look like this. I'll show a couple other companies. Whoever you use, it's fine. But with Diagnostics, this is somebody who is kind of a classic adrenal fatigue. So the pregnenolone, the DHEA has to be low as well, and cortisol needs to be low. So this cortisol load, this individual has an 18. 23 is where they're just barely crawling along. We want them to be, right in that 30 to 35 range. People who have high cortisol overall tend to feel better. Like a lot of our athletes come in, their cortisol levels are high, higher than normal all throughout the day. But that's because they're really pushing their body, and so they need more cortisol to clean up the inflammation. So with cortisol, you'll see, with this patient, for example, her energy didn't turn on until about 10 o'clock at night. She was dragging. She'd wake up in the morning. She would feel like crap. She didn't sleep good at night, and she would wake up. She'd drink coffee just so she could walk through the day, get her kids ready for school, and then she would take a nap, and then she'd wake up still feeling like she's in a fog. She'd try a minimal workout and do some stuff around the house. Kids would come home. She was exhausted, make dinner. And then by the time 8 o'clock rolled around, she just wanted to get in bed. So she put the kids to bed. She'd be all ready to crawl into bed, and boom, her energy would hit. And then she would get creative, and she'd work on projects, and she'd read books or watch movies with her husband, and the cycle just kept going on. And so she was contracting an autoimmune disease where she was, I was worried she was getting lupus, but she was getting all this joint pain. Her skin was looking rough, and it was because her cortisol wasn't balanced. So we got her corrected. Here's where you can see low cortisol throughout the entire day. It doesn't even spike. This is typical in some of your elderly patients, when they're around 80. Their cortisol may be low all throughout the day. Surprisingly, one of our patients, 91, she had the best cortisol I've ever seen in the entire clinic, and she was a BYU fan. So I don't know if you guys are, I was at Glacier National Park last weekend. A lot of people were wearing BYU hats, and so it's all over. But anyway, she was big into sports. She was very active in her community, and it was interesting because she had the best cortisol I've ever seen. So, okay, here's what to do if someone's got low cortisol. Exercise in the morning or whenever cortisol values are at the lowest. This is some general principles on regulating the adrenals. All right, sorry. Kombucha break. Exercise in the morning whenever cortisol are the lowest. Consume 60 to 70% of calories from fats. Fats like French fries are great. KFC has more fat because they deep fry it. So trans fatty acids. These are all ideal sources. I'm joking. All right, sorry guys. No, don't do that. Fats from coconut, from avocados, fat from fish, fat from grass-fed beef or bison or wherever, but don't get them from those sources.
You already had a couple comments and questions on that one.
Did I? All right, you guys try it and see how your adrenals feel. All right, some herbal formulas. Adaptocrine is that's a formula by Apex Energetics. Powerful. The holy basil in there. You can use the Withania complex. It's made by many herbs, standard process. If you suspect that somebody's got any type of autoimmune condition, Adrenal can be really powerful, or some type of glandular with the hormones deactivated. Can be super helpful. Kidney ion tonic, Adrenal, so all those things. If you take the adaptocrine with the French fries and Kentucky Fried Chicken, you'll do much better. You'll digest the herbs better. You'll feel great. All right, exercise. Just do the right amount. Remember, exercise is medicine. If someone's got high levels of cortisol, typically they can, and they're feeling good, they can handle some high intensity. Remember, cortisol levels can be raised up better with exercise than anything else you can do. Just like brain health, nothing beats exercise with your brain-derived nootropic factors. Same with the adrenals. So have a person, if their cortisol levels are dropping at like noon, but they have a good overall cortisol output, then have them exercise at 11. Just get them in a CrossFit class, get them doing some Tabata training, some super slow, right around 11, and then that will correct that imbalance. and you can correct it pretty quick with just exercise. Too much sitting is going to interfere with the adrenals. So if you see people and it looks like they've got no butt and their legs are really skinny, then you can be certain that their body has way too much sitting and way too much stress when they're sitting, because what happens is if cortisol levels get dysregulated and too high, then one of the things that your liver will do is release proteins to start breaking down sugar from your muscles. So your body will go into a catabolic metabolic state, and you'll start your body, the first thing it goes for is the proteins in your butt and the proteins in your legs. And so that's what your cortisol, that's what your liver will use to supply cortisol with the sugar that it needs. So everyone, I want you to look at your butt now. You looked at your stomach, now look at your butt. If you're losing muscle there, and some of you may say, oh, it's all squishy. Well, you can lose muscle, your butt can get more fat around it, but if the muscle is getting weaker, especially if you're working out, and then that's going to indicate that you probably have a dysregulation of cortisol and you need to stand up a little more. Get a nutrient-dense diet. General ranges here. This you have to be very specific on each patient, but 130 to 150 grams of healthy fats every day, 100 to 120 healthy grams of carbs, 100 to 150 healthy grams.
Those healthy fats don't include KFC or French fries, I'm assuming, right?
What? I thought. Yeah, all right. Yes, they do not include that. And then, some healthy carbs, healthy proteins. Avoid foods that are going to provoke oxidative stress and inflammation. So that's going to be refined sugar, refined flour, industrial plant oils, artificial ingredients. Avoid the big five: gluten, dairy, soy, corn, peanuts. And then, maybe some more of a paleo or Chinese medical diet, bulletproof body type diet. So a lot of the vegan and heavy vegetarian diets, what we found is they can actually stress out your adrenals. So you got to be very careful if you're a vegetarian. I'm all about it for moral reasons, environmental things like that. But when we're working with food as medicine, meats can be some of your best sources. And here is the best thing you can eat. It's going to be the organ meats. The heart, the liver, the kidneys are very nutrient dense. Get lots of fats from butter, coconut oil, avocado, some flaxseed oil. A little bit of flaxseed oil, don't overdo it on that. Certain nuts and seeds can be great sources of fats. Grass-fed animals, wild-caught fish, more proteins for liver type or adrenal types. And then make sure they're eating the yolks and the eggs. Duck eggs are the best. When I go visit Cade in the summer with Cade's farmers market there, they have duck eggs, and they're bomb. They're twice as nutrient dense as chicken eggs. They have a thicker shell. So get your patients on some duck eggs. Continue eating vegetables, at least a pound a day, and then no sweets. Sweets can be stimulatory for the adrenals, and for those of you who smoke, nicotine is a stimulant, and it's hard on the adrenals. So I don't recommend more than about a pack a day. Here it is. Avoid caffeine and nicotine. When you're looking at coffee, the only way that you can help our patients with adrenal issues is if they're doing like bulletproof coffee. So they got to put some butter in there, some coconut oil. That is one of the key ingredients if they're going to drink coffee. I recommend if they've got very low output on their cortisol, get them off coffee altogether, get them on decaf, just wean them off that stuff, because it can be very hard on the adrenals. Making sure that if they're eating nut butters, cheese and fruit, this can be something they want to do. I would recommend more of an avocado before bed, but if they won't eat that, then a tiny bit of fruit, maybe a tiny bit of cheese will help stabilize their blood sugar before they go to bed. Eating food low on the. Go ahead.
We had a question on the tribulus and maca. That's for increasing testosterone.
Yep.
But yeah, do you want to just touch on that real quick, just so you can answer that question?
Okay. What's the question on that?
What is tribulus and maca?
Oh, okay.
How is that spelled too? Maca is
yeah, I see him. Dr. Antori, yeah, maca is M-A. CCA, and that is it's just an herbal formula that's used to balance hormones. You can use red maca for females, yellow maca more for males. There's black maca that can be used either way. Um, but yeah, maca is it's a powerful adaptogen, um, and I would highly recommend looking into that. Tribulus, Dr. Antori, if you're looking at introducing Tribulus, the company you want to use is MediHerb, and that's through standard process. But they've got some great sources of Tribulus. Lots of research has been done on Tribulus increasing testosterone levels. Tribulus can even balance progesterone, so use it for your women who have low progesterone. So yeah, hopefully that helps. All right, so eat before 10 a.m. You got to eat something in the morning with adrenals. Consume lots of sea salt, add minerals to everything. Get your green beans, celery, peppers, papaya, mango, and kiwi. Those are some of the main foods. And then we already talked about the bison, lamb, venison. Sardines. Sardines are your friend if you have adrenal issues. Okay, so let's talk about testing the adrenals. Here's somebody who they're a little higher in the morning. So they wake up in the morning, they're revved up, ready to go. So some lifestyle changes for this person is they want to start their day with a meditation or do the mindset morning. That's one of the first things we train our wellness members on is the mindset morning. And they learn that in orientation. So this is also a good time to take Adrenal Calm. Great formula there to help you you just rub it on your skin. And that adrenal calm, the phosphatidylcholine in there will help calm down the adrenal glands. All right, so hopefully you guys are doing good. You're getting some of this. Here's where we go to low cortisol. You can see that here, and very low DHEA. So this is a patient who is not feeling good at all. You can see it from their samples. This is a classic adrenal fatigue. One of our patients who had Lyme's disease, one of our patients, she actually worked for the Forest Service, and she was exposed to a lot of chemicals and then a lot of forest fires. And she had classic adrenal fatigue, and she was fighting the federal government for some type of disability because she was young, and it just flattened her. She ended up with POTS, and she couldn't regulate her blood pressure. And so what we've done I've worked with her for about 2 years, but what we've been doing is just slowly building her adrenals, slowly getting her. We couldn't throw too many adaptogenic herbs, so we started her out with some cordyceps, some astragalus. Soon we started introducing American ginseng, and now her hormones are starting to regulate. She's starting to feel more like herself, more like a human. She can't push herself too hard. So this is a person, when it comes to exercise, the only thing you can do for them is get them in a yoga class. They can go on walks. Meditation is the biggest thing, and just self-preservation and cultivation. So keeping stress levels low, we recommend spending lots of time in art studios, looking at things that relax your mind. Looking at nature is key. If you're looking at a tongue diagnosis, for you weirdos out there who look at people's tongues, they're going to have a red tip. It's going to be pale in the center. It could be pale overall, swollen with a white coat. Some of the classical adrenal pulses or adrenal tongue is going to be that red tip on the heart area, and that's one of your indicators that their cortisol levels are dysregulated. And I've seen red tip with high, and I've seen red tip with low, because once again, that's your spark, and it's off. So make sure you're looking at tongues like Einstein's, listening to the pulse. The pulse, you're going to find that in your most proximal position on the right arm. And listen, an adrenal pulse, if it's flat, they're going to have a low adrenal output. If you feel a spike in it, that can be high cortisol. If you feel the pulse and it's got almost feels like a little bird beak coming through there, like a tip of a ballpoint pen, that's when you know this person's got a chronic viral infection like Epstein-Barr or cytomegalomy, or maybe they've got Lyme's disease. It will show up in the adrenals, because that little ballpoint pen that's floating through the mid-level of that pulse on the most proximal on the right hand, what that's going to indicate is that there's a virus that the adrenal is attacking. And then if you feel in the spleen position, you'll probably feel the same exact pulse. That's how you can differentiate between chronic and more acute. All right, so treatment for immune and energy issues. Here's some herbs you can use. Comprehensive tonic can be Imperial Tonic. You can use Vibrant for quick energy boost. Immune Plus. These are more evergreen herbs. If you're looking to support the immune system and reproductive system, try Cordyceps 3. Those are some of the key ones. If they've got chronic fatigue syndrome, Imperial Tonic has been the best. You're going to use your basic structural alignment points. For those of you who have not taken the structural alignment course, you need to get on that. We're opening up registration for level 2. Level 1 filled up, so you need to get in fast if you want to get in on level 2. And you can weave in, if you haven't done level 1 on our boot camp for functional medicine or on our structural alignment certifications, you can jump in at any time. I've designed the curriculum so that anybody can jump in at any stage and still get up to speed with the group. So, but yeah, you want to use the basic points with structural alignment acupuncture. Kidney 3, kidney 7, kidney 12. All these are very important things. Evergreen, you're going to use Adrenoplex, Cordyceps 3, Immune Plus, lots of vitamin B12. Now remember, with vitamin B12, you can do more harm than good if you don't use the right form. So if you're using cyanocobalamin, 90% of your patients are going to do crappy with that. And a lot of your patients are taking cyanocobalamin that they get at the health food store, they think it's helping their energy, or they're taking the 5-hour energy, and they're crushing their methylation pathways. So if they've got MTHFR mutation, MTRR, or COMT mutation, they need to take B12, like either a methylated form of B12, or if they have the COMT as well, then they need adenosine cobalamin or hydroxycobalamin. So make sure that you're giving your patients the right B12. Remember, vitamins are medicine too, just like herbs are medicine. Vitamin C, vitamin A and D, potassium, magnesium, selenium. Get sunlight. Those are key. All right, I thought you guys would like this. Dr. Antori, I know you don't do acupuncture yet, but we're going to get one for you in there. Okay, so as we finish up, there's a few things I want to cover, but I don't want to overwhelm you. I want to make sure you know how to read these. Heavy metals can be a big detriment to adrenal health. So I'm trying to give you a quick overview. When you come to the session 3, we're going to dive in deep in all of these areas, but if someone's got infections, if somebody's got lots of hormonal dysregulation, too much stress, heavy metal toxicity, if they're not exercising properly, then what's going to happen is these things can deteriorate the adrenal function, and heavy metals can be one of those. So use cilantro. Coriander. It's a natural chelating agent, so use about 2 cups a day, but make sure that you're using some either zeolite or activated charcoal, because that's going to pull a lot of toxins into the large intestine, and if a person's not voiding in the proper way, then they're going to have an uptake of those toxins, so they'll get worse. So get them some activated charcoal. Eat the smaller fish. Tuna and swordfish have lots of heavy metal. Get your amalgam fillings out. In fact, I just recommend getting dentures. I mean, just get rid of your teeth altogether. No, I'm joking, but all right, detox, use herbal detox, zeolites, another powerful formula, liver 2, liver 6, liver 7, the Seitai basic points. For you chiros on this webinar, that means aligning their spine is key. The other thing, if a person has low energy, if their adrenals are flat, some of the things you can do is use Vibrant. It's an evergreen formula. You can do the Myers Cocktail IV if you have medical staff. We do at East West Health. So we do lots of Myers cocktails with 1 to 2 mLs of glutathione. You can do the Chai-Hu injection on liver 3. So for those of you who are going to be taking our AcuPoint injection course, you're going to love this. The Chai-Hu feels amazing. You can use formulas for the energy boosting like Immune Plus. You can use Adaptogrin, Cordyceps 3. Those are all powerful things. All right, so I think we've covered a lot. If somebody's getting acupuncture, is there a voodoo doll screaming somewhere? So I'm just going to open up some questions. I know there's quite a few of you who have joined us recently, so welcome to the show. We are really looking forward to this upcoming event in LA. Now, LA, what you're going to find is in LA, you're going to see, we'll give you, not only will you get ideas for a quick energy boost for your practice, but you're going to get the quick energy boost for your patients too. So our goal is to get you to the point of, where you're at in your practice right now. We want to help you get to the next level and multiply your efforts, and double your efforts, triple your efforts, 10 times your efforts in half the time. And so what we've done is I've created a curriculum that will help you walk through each of the steps in becoming an entrepreneur, so that you don't have a job, you can actually have you have a business that can run with or without you. Because in school, a lot of us, we learned two things. We learned how to diagnose and how to treat. Your clinic's going to have 100 additional jobs that you were never taught. And so we want to give you that, but we also want to enhance your clinical skills, because what I find is mastering the medicine is just as important as mastering your business skills. So there's a lot of coaching that we give you. We have a whole online training with our healthcare entrepreneur program where you go through 4 modules. So you'll go through the Elon Musk module, you'll go through the Kanye West module, the Einstein's medicine module, and then finally the Tao of the healthcare entrepreneurs. So we've got very powerful trainings on those. We've got 4 boot camps, so you'll get certified as a functional medicine practitioner. So all these things are through GoWellness.com. Very first thing that you guys want to do, for those of you who would like more information, then just email us at info@gowellness.com. Cade and I will be available to answer any questions and get you onboarded. And then go to gowellness.com and get yourself set up for our upcoming event. Our next one is in LA, October 15th and 16th. And then we're going to be back in Salt Lake City, Utah, November 11th, November 12th, and November 13th. Now these events, especially November 11th and the 13th, they will fill up. So you want to get registered as quickly as you possibly can. So thank you very much. I'll open it up. Cade, do you have anything else you'd like to add to anything?
No, that was great. I'll be emailing a few of you just to I want to get a survey out and get some questions answered. So if you receive an email from Cade at Go Wellness or info at Go Wellness, I'd encourage you to reply to it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody. Once again, Dr. Antori, good to have you on. Deborah, thanks for joining us. Marichelle, Matt, Roxine, Sherry, Suzanne, Tai Hao. Tai Hao, awesome to have you. And then all the others, I know I missed a bunch of names, so it's so good to have all you guys here, and I can't wait to see you at the next event.
See everybody.